but either we're saying, okay, well, that conversation is too scary for me because I smoked a lot of pot when I was in college, or I did do a lot of keg stands when I was in that frat, when I was at, whatever school. So that's scary. Talking to kids about substances is scary because we don't want to seem out of touch or stupid. We don't want to seem square to our kids. Yep. Like, Uncool. You're just some teetotaler, da, 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 da. But, erring in the other direction, one of the experts I interviewed for this book freely admits that he screwed this up. Like, he wanted to seem cool to his kids. So he overly romanticized what he had done when he was in college and all the things he tried. And one of his kids came back to him in his 20s and he was like, yeah, Dad, you kind of blew it on that one because you made it seem like a lot of fun. And I wanted to try those things. But I can tell you right now that, the two books I love most about the sex stuff is Peggy Orenstein's books, Boys and Sex and Girls and Sex. Yep. And I can tell you right now, I bet you the conversations in Peggy's house flow really easily. The conversations in our house flow really easily because we can't afford for them not to. Yeah. It's just a part of my children's legacy. And so if I were to keep things secret or not talk about it, that's at their peril, really.
Yeah. So for all our listeners out there who are going, oh my gosh, it's too late. My kid's a teen already, and I haven't had these discussions. And, I think we're up against this invincibility that teens have. Of course. It's like, oh, that's not going to happen to me. I mean, we can talk about genetics till we're blue in the face, but they're like, no, that's not going to be me. So get practical. Mm-hmm. Yep. It's Saturday night, the party's going on. What's the conversation before they leave the house?
So there's a piece in the book where I talk very specifically, first, let's back up a second. The reason the word inoculation is in the title is because of inoculation theory. And inoculation theory shows that when you protect kids by giving them actual ammunition, empowering them, making them feel like they have a sense of self-efficacy with information about not only excuses they can give when they don't want to drink. And there's 3 pages on that, like nice. Everything from, people with, some people actually get this flushing syndrome. There is such a thing as allergy to alcohol, gluten intolerance. We're in this, no gluten kind of thing. Well, great. That means beer is out of the question. There are some people who are actually allergic to wine. If you're on certain medications, you can't take it. There's all kinds of excuses.
She's got good excuses in there.
They're good excuses. Good. When you empower kids, not only with excuses for how they can have an exit strategy, and you also empower them with real information to rebut things like, oh, come on, it's no big deal. Everybody's doing it. If the kid is in 8th grade and that kid knows that, well, actually only 24% of kids in 8th grade admit that they've tried alcohol by the end of 8th grade. That's really powerful information. It's information that can rebut. Research on inoculation theory shows that when you empower kids with information to rebut one high-risk behavior, such as substance use, you actually also empower them against other high-risk behaviors like sex before they're ready, or, speeding, or riding with a drunk driver. These things generalize. So, and when they generalize, the other cool thing about inoculation theory is when we empower kids with real data, information about how their brains work and why specifically we're not talking about adult drug and alcohol use here. We're talking about adolescent drug and alcohol use, which has a much bigger negative impact on the brain than it does in adulthood. In fact, there are some drugs that have, relatively almost no risk in an adult brain, very low risk in an adult brain, but in an adolescent's brain can do very significant damage, some of it permanent. When we give them that information and when we give them these refusal skills, not only do we raise the chances that they will use those refusal skills, they will feel empowered enough and actually use those refusal skills, we up the chances that they will talk to us about having used those refusal skills. And then there's this generalizing thing that is really, really important as well. So start there. Start with refusal skills, start with having a family contract about the fact that if someone you're with is drinking, you can call us, no questions asked, we'll come and get you, and we will not talk about it until, the next day. Or if you're drunk and you need a ride, won't talk about it till the next day. Having conversations in that context about, you screwed up. So how are we going to prevent this from happening again? That once, if your kid is trying drugs and alcohol, that doesn't mean like forget it. It's all is lost. We might as well give up on this whole prevention thing. It's all over. There's no like, in recovery, there's sort of, some people have this thought that if you relapse, well, that's it. It's all over. You have to start at day zero again, kind of thing. And that's, while that's what keeps me sober, one of the things that keeps me sober, it's also in a weird way, what can also keep some people sick is because they feel like if they relapse, well, it's blown anyway. I might as well really blow it, that kind of thing. These conversations are hard. I acknowledge that they're hard. So I give scripts in the book for kids, young kids, middle school age kids, all the way up to college, to help people, give kids the tools they need.